All right, practice problem number 3 for chapter 18. So this exercise here is in regards to classifying costs. And it says here the selected costs. So the costs from that we see here on the screen, numbers 1 through 8, they're related to Apple's iPhone. Okay, so if you have an iPhone, these are the costs here that's associated with your iPhone or in order to produce the iPhone. Okay, so what we have to do is classify each one either either the costs are direct materials, direct labor, or for factory overhead, or for selling expenses, or for general and administrative expenses. Okay, so the bottom line here is that all of these costs are associated with producing the iPhone here. Okay, that's the product. That's the product that's being turned over for money. Okay, so these costs could be directly associated with producing an iPhone or indirectly associated with producing the iPhone. Okay, so we're going to go one by one to classify or to make these classifications of each cost. Okay, so for number one, it says display screen. Okay, so again, we're focused on the iPhone, the actual product. So the display screen is going to be a direct material. And what I'm going to do right beside display screen, I'm just going to put DM as indicated as direct materials. Okay, the reason why is because, well, the display screen is something that is needed in order to directly produce the iPhone. So that display screen is a direct material that is needed to be on the iPhone. Okay, in order for it to even work, the screen to work and all that. So direct materials is the type of classification of this cost here for the display screen. Number two, assembly line supervisor salary. That's going to be factory overhead. I'm going to just abbreviate it as FO for factory overhead. Okay. Now, the reason why this is factory overhead is because the supervisor that's in the facility is not directly involved with producing the iPhone. So because of that, their salary does not get categorized as direct labor. So instead, it's going to be factory overhead because this is the factory supervisor here. So their salary is going to be factory overhead. They are just there to, make sure that all of the assembly line workers, the people that are actually working hands on the iPhone, is doing their job. So they're just, managing them. They're walking around making sure everything is okay. But these supervisors are not hands on the production of the iPhone, which is why their salary or their pay is going to go to factory overhead or be classified as factory overhead. Number three, we got wages for assembly workers. Okay, so wages for assembly workers are going to be direct labor. So I'm going to put DL, indicated this is direct labor. Reason why is because the assembly workers are the ones that are directly involved or associated with producing the iPhone. So they are the ones that are hands on, which is why their pay or wages are going to go or be classified as direct labor. Number four, we have salary of chief executive officer. Well, that's going to go to general and administrative expenses. So I'm going to do some abbreviation here and put G and A expenses. Right. So the salary of the CEO. Think of the CEO as being located in an office. They are away from the factory. They are away from the production. They are indirectly involved in the production of the iPhone, but far away. They're not in the factory. They're in the office somewhere, working in AC, so they're not in that hot weather producing the iPhone in the factory. So this is why their salary is not considered factory overhead because they're not in the factory. They're located in an office somewhere, again, with AC. So the salary of a CEO or anyone that works in the offices, their salary is not going to be classified as factory overhead. Instead, it's going to be general and administrative expenses. Number five, glue to hold iPhone cases together. That's going to be factory overhead, so FO. Okay, so the glue is like an accessory that is needed. So it's an indirect cost. It's an accessory that is needed in order to keep the iPhone case together, which means that it's not going to be classified as direct material because you don't necessarily need now I wouldn't say needed, but you don't necessarily classify a glue as direct materials to produce the iPhone, if that makes sense. Glue is separate. You just need that glue and put the glue on there to keep things together. All right. So because of that, it is going to be indirectly associated with the iPhone or with the production of the iPhone, which is why it's going to be classified as factory overhead. Number 6, you got uniforms provided for each factory worker. That's going to also be factory overhead. So FO. So uniforms means a uniform. So uniforms is just clothes. So it's not going to be a direct material because it's not a material that is used to produce the phone or produce the product. Instead, these are uniforms that are used for the workers to work in. Okay, so it's going to be an indirect cost because, well, the workers need some type of uniform because it's maybe required for them to actually be in the factory and do their jobs. Okay, so it is going to be an overhead, specifically factory overhead. Number 7, wages for retail store salesperson. So this is going to be selling expenses. Selling expenses, and the reason why is because wages for retail store salesperson, it says it right there, salesperson. They're the ones that actually are trying to go out there and sell the product. And when they sell the product, the business actually generates revenue, and you have to match the expenses or the cost that went along with generating that revenue. So a salesperson's cost is going to be aligned with the revenue that was generated. And so that cost, though, the salesperson cost is going to be associated with selling expenses because they are selling the phone or trying to sell the phone. Once they do, revenue generated, then the expenses, selling expenses is going to be aligned in the same period as when the revenue was generated. But either way, the classification for this type of thing, salesperson's wages, is going to be classified in selling expenses. And then lastly, number 8, depreciation. Straight line on robotic equipment used in assembly. That's going to be factory overhead, FO. Okay, so depreciation on an equipment used. It's not directly associated with the production of the iPhone. I mean, depreciation is a non-cash expense that's reported and reports the wear and tear on equipment. And so since this is a robotic equipment that's used in the factory, says used in assembly, this is something that's going to be overhead, specifically classified as factory overhead.